Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Star Wars The Acolyte. It was called Destiny. And as the episode starts, on the planet Brendok, some years in the past, Osha and May talk in a forest before they have to head back, before it's discovered that they left the fortress where they live. And we see that May is already sort of a sadistic little kid that's been using the Force. On their way back, they're discovered by a woman called Coral, a Dathomorian, who is one of the girls' mothers, and who scolds them for being in the forest because apparently they're not supposed to be there. And she leads them back to where they live. And we see that Master Saul was there in the forest observing secretly. Upon returning to the fortress, the girls are greeted by their other mother, Anastasia, who sends them off to get ready for a training session. Coral, who carried the girls, and Aisha, who created them, talk about how Coral doesn't think that the Jedi who are visiting the planet saw them out in the forest. At the training session, Anastasia talks to the girls about the Force, which her people, who are witches, call the Thread, and then performs a Force sparring demonstration with two other people. Later, we see that Osha and May are not on the same page about the Ascension as far as wanting to do it is concerned. At the Ascension, however, Anastasia speaks before the Coven about how their group of witches was hunted and forced to flee wherever it is that they were from, until they were blessed with the twins, who are the only children in the Coven. May swears an oath to keep the secrets of and continue the legacy of the Coven, when Anastasia, who is apparently the Coven leader, is gone, and is ascended, before Osha, whose full name is apparently Verosha, agrees to do so reluctantly, but isn't able to complete the ritual because the Coven is interrupted by the presence of the four Jedi that May is now hunting, who speak with Anastasia about how they're concerned that the children are being trained in the Force, which is apparently forbidden in the Republic, though Brendok isn't a Republic member. Saul offers to test Osha to see if she can become a Jedi, and Osha says she's willing to be tested, at which point Anastasia agrees to allow it, as well as to allow May to be tested. This, of course, isn't really what she wants, but she feels that the Coven can't do anything to the Jedi without bringing the full wrath of the Republic down on them, so she goes along with it. She does, however, advise the girls to fail the testing so that they're not taken away, but Osha doesn't want to fail because it would involve lying. She does try to fail by lying at first, but ends up deciding not to continue to lie and passes the test, and then later tells her family and the rest of the Coven that she doesn't want to be a witch. This upsets May, but Anastasia tells her that really she should follow her heart, and what her heart wants is to be a Jedi. But before she can leave, her sister sets a fire, which she intends to kill her sister with, so that she doesn't leave. With her room burning, Osha hacks a port in one of the walls and escapes before confronting her sister, at which point they both fall off of a breaking bridge in the middle of a chasm after May tells Osha that her mother is dead, but Saul manages to save Osha from falling, and later, aboard the Jedi ship, has to inform her that everyone is dead. And the episode ends with May standing in the forest alone, visibly sad that Osha is gone. So I like this episode better than the first two. And, if you saw my review of the first two, I didn't hate them, but I found them to be very mediocre, although I liked the Osha character and her relationship to her droid friend. This episode, though, was better because we're getting a look at these witches, and we're seeing more about, the relationship between Osha and May, which the whole series depends on, and which I actually do find interesting. And, we see why they went the different ways that they did. And, I think that's all compelling enough to want to know the rest of the story. Particularly, I think the whole thing about the witches is fascinating because what they call the Thread is actually the Force. And apparently it's the dark side of the Force that they use to do what I guess they consider magic. And, I've been intrigued by the concept of witches in Star Wars ever since I watched the Clone Wars, which delved into Darth Maul's past and the story of his people on Dathomir. And then that's further explored in Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which were two games that I played recently that I loved. So I'm happy to see this explored in the show. We got a little bit of it in Ahsoka, but not really. So I'm happy to see that explored because I think it's cool. We've always just had the dark side and the light side of the Force, and it's always just been Jedi and Sith. But now here you have these witches who, are neither light side or dark side, really, even though they use the dark side, and who kind of access the Force in a different way, sometimes benevolently, sometimes malevolently. And so I think that's very interesting. I think it's another side of the Star Wars universe that's worth telling stories about. I mean, how many times can you tell the same story over and over again in Star Wars? So, I think this is a decent show so far. I think this third episode has been the best of the three. And I'm looking forward to more. I was happy to see Carrie Moss again. It sucks that she's not going to be in it, the rest of the time, unless we get more flashbacks, but I was happy to see her again. I still don't like the actor playing Saul. Apparently, he just learned English to play this part. And I think it kind of shows in his line delivery, and it makes him not have gravitas, in my opinion. Also, his hair in this episode was a little weird. Like, it looked fake, and, I don't know. It seems like they could have, they got all that Disney money. They could have done a better job. He looked goofy because they kind of had to de-age him 16 years. I don't know if they did that with any CGI, but he's supposed to be 16 years younger, so it didn't look right. I did enjoy seeing the Wookiee Jedi. That was cool. He didn't really do anything, but it was still cool to see him with the Jedi outfit on, which we didn't see in the brief moment that we saw him at the end of the second episode. So that was cool. We get to see Master Torben as a Padawan, and I think that's cool because he didn't have the fake beard, so he looked more like a Jedi and not like a goofy Wish version of a Jedi. I was hoping that we'd see how May ended up with her master before the episode ended, but we didn't, so maybe we'll see that in the fourth episode. But yeah, this show is getting a lot of hate online, but I don't think it's worthy of the hate. I don't think it's fantastic, but I am enjoying it, and I'm going to stick with it. And on that note, I'm going to get out of here, but I will be back to do a breakdown and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, may the Force be with you.